What if I told you that some of the most important inventions on Earth, the ones you use every single day, were created not in America, not in Europe, but right here in Australia? From the invisible power that connects your phone to the internet, to the technology that helps airplanes land safely, to the medical breakthroughs that allow the deaf to hear and the blind to see, Australia's inventions have quietly changed the way the entire world lives, works, and communicates. You may not see them, but they're everywhere. In your pocket, your kitchen, your car, even in outer space. Today, we're counting down 10 Australian inventions that changed the world forever. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at Australia the same way again. Let's begin with the one invention you're probably using right now. Believe it or not, the Wi-Fi you're using right now to stream this video, scroll through social media, or send a message was born right here in Australia. In the early 1990s, a brilliant team of scientists at the CSIRO, the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, changed the course of global communication forever. It all began with a challenge. How could computers communicate without messy cables, without losing signal quality, and without interference? At the time, wireless communication was unstable and extremely limited. But CSIRO researcher Dr. John O'Sullivan and his colleagues were not ready to give up. Their mission started with something completely different: detecting black holes in space. While trying to interpret radio waves from distant cosmic signals, they accidentally stumbled upon a technique that could filter and separate overlapping radio signals on Earth. That same principle became the foundation for modern Wi-Fi, a technology that allows devices to send and receive data through invisible radio waves, quickly, securely, and seamlessly. At first, no one realized how revolutionary it would be. But soon, Wi-Fi spread across homes, schools, airports, and workplaces, becoming one of the most essential inventions of the 21st century. Think about it. Every time you connect to the internet without a cable, whether on your phone, tablet, or laptop, you're using Australian science in action. Today, over 20 billion devices are powered by Wi-Fi. It's in your smart TV, your car, even airplanes flying thousands of feet above the ground. And behind all of that, there's an Australian innovation, one born not in Silicon Valley but in a quiet CSIRO lab in Sydney. What started as a space experiment became the invisible thread that connects the modern world. Wi-Fi didn't just change technology. It transformed communication, education, business, and even how we live our daily lives. So, the next time you're online, remember, this invisible power that keeps you connected to everyone and everything, it all began down under. Yes, you can thank Australia for that.
Every time a plane crashes, investigators around the world search for one thing: the black box. It's the silent witness of every flight, the indestructible storyteller that holds the truth when all else is lost. But here's what most people don't know. This life-saving invention was created not in the US or Europe, but in Australia, by a man named Dr. David Warren. The year was the early 1950s. Air travel was growing, but aviation accidents were frequent, and no one truly knew why they happened. Dr. Warren, a scientist working at Melbourne's Aeronautical Research Laboratories, was haunted by one personal tragedy. His father had died in a mysterious plane crash when David was just 9 years old. That loss planted a question in his mind that would define his life. What if we could know exactly what went wrong in those final moments? At that time, airplanes had no way to record data or cockpit conversations. Investigators relied only on wreckage and eyewitnesses. Often, nothing could be proven. So Dr. Warren began developing a small device that could record pilots' voices, instrument readings, and flight performance all in real time. He called it the Flight Memory Unit, but the world would later know it as the black box. Ironically, the black box isn't black at all. It's painted bright orange, so it can be found more easily among wreckage. At first, aviation officials didn't believe in the idea. Some even dismissed it, saying pilots would never agree to have their conversations recorded. But Warren persisted, and his invention eventually proved its worth beyond question. The black box was designed to survive fire, impact, and deep-sea pressure, ensuring that no matter how devastating a crash, the truth could still be recovered. Over the decades, the technology evolved to store flight data recorders, FDR, and cockpit voice recorders, CVR, in a single unit. Today, every commercial aircraft in the world carries one, and each time tragedy strikes, the black box becomes the voice of those who can no longer speak. It provides critical clues, prevents future disasters, and has led to safer skies for billions of passengers. From the wreckage of loss came one of humanity's most powerful safety tools. Dr. David Warren turned personal grief into a global legacy, one that ensures every flight tells its story. Australia didn't just give the world a box. It gave the world answers, and with them, hope. Once again, Australian innovation took flight literally. Imagine living in total silence. No voices, no laughter, no music. Just an endless quiet world. For centuries, this was the reality for millions of people born deaf or who lost their hearing later in life. But one Australian doctor refused to accept that silence had to be permanent. In the 1970s, Professor Graham Clark, a surgeon from Melbourne, began a journey that would transform medicine forever. His inspiration was deeply personal. His own father was deaf. Growing up, Clark watched him struggle to communicate, isolated from the sounds that most of us take for granted. That experience planted a dream in his heart, to one day help the deaf hear again. At the time, doctors believed it was impossible. The inner ear, the cochlea, was considered too complex to replicate or restore. Scientists thought that no electronic device could ever replace natural hearing. But Graham Clark dared to try. He spent years studying how sound travels through the ear and converts into electrical impulses interpreted by the brain. Then, after countless experiments, failures, and moments of doubt, he created something extraordinary: the Cochlear Implant. This small electronic device bypasses damaged parts of the ear and directly stimulates the auditory nerve, allowing the brain to perceive sound. It didn't fix hearing, it reinvented it. In 1978, Clark performed the world's first successful cochlear implant surgery on a man named Rod Saunders, who had been completely deaf. When the device was switched on, Rod heard something for the first time in years: a faint clicking, a sound that meant everything. It was the sound of hope. Over time, technology improved, and those clicks became voices, music, and the full spectrum of sound. The cochlear implant opened the door for millions of people around the world to reconnect, to hear the laughter of their children, the melody of their favorite song, or even the rhythm of their own footsteps. Today, more than 700,000 people across the globe live with cochlear implants. Many made by the Australian company Cochlear Limited, founded on Clark's invention. It's one of the most remarkable medical innovations of the 20th century, born not out of ambition, but out of compassion. Graham Clark once said, "I just wanted to help people hear, that's all." And with that simple goal, he changed the lives of generations. From silence to sound, from isolation to connection, Australia gave the world the gift of hearing. The cochlear implant isn't just a piece of technology, it's proof that science, guided by empathy, can perform miracles, and that even the quietest dreams can echo across the world. The fourth invention is one that changed medicine, motherhood, and miracles forever. It allows doctors to see the unseen, to look inside the human body without a single cut, and to witness the first flicker of a baby's heartbeat before it ever takes its first breath. This isn't science fiction. It's the story of the ultrasound scanner, an Australian invention that transformed healthcare worldwide. It all began in the 1950s. when a group of pioneering researchers at the University of Sydney were experimenting with sound waves. At the time, X-rays were the only way to see inside the human body, but they carried risks, especially for pregnant women. Doctors needed a safer way to look within, to diagnose, to monitor, and to understand. Enter Dr. George Kossoff, Dr. David Robinson, and their team from the Commonwealth Acoustic Laboratories in Sydney. They were fascinated by sonar, the same technology ships used to detect objects underwater. If sound waves could reveal submarines beneath the ocean, could they also reveal a heartbeat hidden inside the human body? They began testing their theory, using high-frequency ultrasonic waves that could bounce off internal organs and tissues, creating images from the echoes. After years of refinement, they produced something extraordinary, a clear, moving image of a fetus inside the womb. For the first time in history, humanity could see life before it was born. It was more than a technological achievement. It was an emotional one. Parents could watch their unborn child kick, stretch, and grow. Doctors could monitor development safely and detect potential complications early. It revolutionized obstetrics, cardiology, and diagnostic medicine as a whole. Unlike X-rays, ultrasound used no radiation. It was safe, gentle, and incredibly effective. Hospitals around the world quickly adopted it, and soon, ultrasound scanners became a standard tool in medical practice. Over the decades, the technology advanced from grainy black-and-white images to the 3D and even 4D color scans we see today, showing babies yawning, smiling, or sucking their thumbs before birth. But it all began with that small group of Australian scientists, driven by curiosity and compassion, who refused to believe that the human body was beyond safe exploration. Their invention didn't just save lives, it gave families memories before birth, and doctors a window into the mysteries of life itself. Today, over 200 million ultrasounds are performed every year across the globe. Every image, every diagnosis, every heartbeat seen through those glowing screens, all trace back to Australian ingenuity. The ultrasound scanner proved that sound could do more than we ever imagined. It could show us the very essence of life. And in that moment, Australia didn't just invent a medical tool. It gave humanity sight through sound, a way to see with the ears, and to believe in the beauty of what lies within. The fifth invention is something hiding in every workshop, every construction site, and even in most homes, a tool so ordinary today that we forget it once revolutionized how humans build, create, and invent. It's the heartbeat of every DIY project, skyscraper, and machine assembly line. This is the story of how Australia gave the world its power to build the electric drill. It was 1889 in Sydney, Australia, a time of invention, steam, and industrial dreams. Factories roared, railways expanded, and the world was hungry for progress. In a small workshop at Thomas Electric Works, two visionaries, Arthur James Arnett and William Blanche Brain, were about to spark a revolution that would reshape modern industry. Arnett was an engineer with a restless imagination. His task at the time was to design equipment for generating electricity, but he had a bigger idea. What if the raw power of electricity could be harnessed not just to light lamps, but to power human hands? The result was the world's first electric drill, patented in 1889. It was large, far too big to hold in one hand, but it worked. Designed originally for drilling through rock and coal, Arnott's electric drill used a motor to spin a bit at incredible speeds, cutting through material faster and more efficiently than anything before it. It might have looked simple, a motor, a gear, a spinning tip, but its impact was enormous. Before this invention, drilling was done manually, using hand-cranked tools that demanded immense effort and time. The electric drill changed everything. Suddenly, workers could pierce steel beams, bore holes in wood, and carve through stone with precision and power. By the early 20th century, the idea evolved. Smaller, handheld versions emerged, powered first by electricity and later by rechargeable batteries. Companies like Black & Decker expanded on the Australian concept, introducing compact designs that made drills essential household tools. But at the heart of every modern drill, from industrial-grade models to the ones sitting in your garage, lies the original genius of Arnett and Brain. Their invention didn't just make work easier. It accelerated the world's progress. It built cities faster, machines stronger, and industries more efficient. The electric drill became a symbol of human power, amplified by innovation proof that technology could literally put strength at our fingertips. Today, we use drills not just to build homes or offices, but to assemble airplanes, construct bridges, and even explore space. The same principle that started in that Sydney workshop now powers robotic arms on assembly lines and tools aboard the International Space Station. And yet, it all began with a simple question. What if electricity could do the hard work for us? That question turned into an invention that built the modern world, an Australian innovation that powered civilization's next great leap forward. The electric drill is more than a tool. It's a legacy of progress, precision, and the power of human imagination. The sixth invention isn't just a machine, it's a heartbeat. It's the quiet rhythm that keeps millions alive every single day. Hidden beneath the skin, smaller than a matchbox, yet powerful enough to keep the human heart beating. This is the story of how Australia gave the world a second chance at life with the pacemaker. It was the 1950s, a time when heart disease was one of the world's leading killers, and doctors had no reliable way to restart or regulate a failing heartbeat. Hospitals were filled with patients whose lives could end in an instant, because there was no technology to keep their hearts going when nature faltered. Then, in Sydney, Australia, a quiet revolution began inside a small laboratory at the University of Sydney. A young scientist named Dr. Mark Lidwell, along with physicist Edgar Booth, was working on something extraordinary, a device that could send tiny electrical impulses to the human heart, keeping it beating at a steady rhythm. The year was 1926 when Lidwell first tested his device. It was crude by today's standards, a large, boxy machine powered by electricity, connected to the patient with needle electrodes. But the concept was groundbreaking. Use electricity to replace the heart's natural pacemaker when it stopped working. Decades later, in the 1960s, another Australian doctor, Victor Chang, would take this idea further. Chang's pioneering work in cardiac surgery and transplant innovation helped make pacemakers safer, smaller, and more reliable, turning what was once an experimental device into a life-saving medical miracle. Imagine it. A small pulse generator, implanted beneath the skin, quietly sending electrical signals that keep the heart beating, not too slow, not too fast, just perfectly in rhythm. That's what the pacemaker does. It doesn't just save lives, it restores normalcy. It allows people to run, laugh, work, and dream again without fear that their heart will suddenly fail them. Before the pacemaker, a weak or irregular heartbeat often meant a short life. After it, patients lived decades longer, watching their children grow, traveling the world, and living with hope rather than fear. From its early beginnings in Sydney's labs to today's advanced battery-free and wireless pacemakers, this invention has evolved into one of the greatest medical achievements in history. Every time a pacemaker saves a life, it echoes the brilliance and compassion of the scientists who refused to accept death as final. What started as wires and pulses became a symphony of science and humanity. Because behind every heartbeat that continues, there's a whisper of Australian innovation keeping time. The pacemaker didn't just restart the heart. It redefined what it means to live. The seventh invention is one you probably use every single day, yet rarely think about. It's in your kitchen, humming softly, keeping your food fresh and your drinks cold. But what if I told you that the modern refrigerator, the cornerstone of every home, has Australian origins? This is the story of how one invention helped humanity preserve not just food, but life itself. The year was 1856, and the Australian outback was harsh, unforgiving, and hot enough to spoil food in a single day. Ice was a rare luxury, imported from as far away as America. For many Australians, meat, milk, and produce couldn't last long. The heat ruled life and death on the dinner table. Then came a visionary engineer named James Harrison, working in Geelong, Victoria. Harrison was a printer by trade, not a scientist by training. But his curiosity led him to experiment with cooling vapors and condensation. He noticed that when certain liquids evaporated, they absorbed heat from their surroundings, and that observation changed history. Using this principle, Harrison built the world's first mechanical refrigeration system. It used ether, alcohol, and ammonia gases to absorb heat and create cold air. A system that could make ice on demand and preserve perishable goods far longer than nature ever allowed. In 1856, he patented his invention, marking the birth of modern refrigeration. At first, people didn't believe it could work on a large scale. But when Harrison built a commercial ice-making machine that could produce thousands of kilograms of ice per day, the world took notice. Suddenly, breweries, butchers, and ships transporting meat overseas had a new secret weapon against heat and decay. This invention transformed Australia's economy. For the first time, meat and dairy could be exported across oceans without spoiling. Australia's frozen beef and lamb reached Britain, a journey of weeks, still fresh. It was a turning point that helped put Australia on the global trade map. From there, refrigeration evolved rapidly. The technology inspired cooling systems in homes, hospitals, and industries worldwide. By the early 20th century, smaller electric-powered refrigerators began entering households, forever changing how families lived and ate. But at its heart, the concept remained pure. James Harrison's discovery that controlling heat meant controlling time itself. It allowed humanity to preserve nature's bounty, prevent disease, and survive in climates that once seemed impossible. Think about it. Every time you open your fridge for a cold drink, a late-night snack, or fresh fruit, you're touching a legacy born from one man's curiosity in a dusty, Australian workshop nearly 2 centuries ago. Without the refrigerator, global food supply chains wouldn't exist. Cities couldn't feed millions, hospitals couldn't preserve medicines. And our modern world, dependent on freshness and convenience, simply couldn't function. So, the next time you hear that faint hum in your kitchen, remember, it's not just an appliance. It's the quiet echo of Australian innovation, cooling the world since 1856. The eighth invention is something you probably use every single day, maybe even without thinking about it. It guides you when you're lost, takes you to new places, and shows you the world from above. But what if I told you that Google Maps, one of the most powerful tools ever created, actually started in Australia? This is the story of how a small Sydney startup changed the way humanity moves, travels, and explores the Earth itself. It all began in Sydney, Australia, in the early 2000s, long before smartphones ruled our lives. Back then, finding directions meant unfolding giant paper maps or printing routes from clunky websites. Travel was a guessing game. You never knew if you were truly heading the right way. But in a quiet office, above a small cafe, 2 Danish-born brothers living in Australia, Lars and Jens Rasmussen, were building something that would change everything. Their startup, called Where2 Technologies, had one radical idea. What if the whole world could fit inside your computer screen and you could explore it just by clicking and zooming. At the time, that idea sounded impossible. Computers were slow, internet speeds were terrible, and no one believed smooth, interactive maps could even exist. But the Rasmussens didn't stop. They created a prototype that allowed users to drag and move maps seamlessly. No reloading, no waiting. It was the first truly interactive digital map. In 2004, their innovation caught the attention of a young company in California, Google. Google acquired Where2 Technologies, brought the team to the US, and transformed their Australian invention into what we now know as Google Maps. When it launched in 2005, the world was stunned. For the first time ever, you could search for any address, get driving directions, and even see satellite images, all from your computer. Suddenly, the world was smaller, more connected, and easier to navigate than ever before. But the real revolution came later, with smartphones. When Google Maps became a mobile app, it didn't just help people travel. It became their digital compass. It guided drivers, hikers, delivery workers, and travelers, turning every phone into a navigation powerhouse. Today, over 1 billion people use Google Maps every month. It powers ride-sharing apps, delivery routes, travel planning, and even emergency rescue operations. It's not just a map. It's the invisible network that keeps modern life moving. And all of it, from the simple drag-and-drop interface to the live traffic data you see today, began with a group of visionaries in Sydney who refused to accept the limits of early technology. Google Maps didn't just redraw the world. It redefined how we see it. It gave us freedom, the freedom to explore, to discover, and to never be lost again. So, the next time you open your phone and see that little blue dot showing where you are, remember that dot was first dreamed up in Australia. The 9th invention is nothing short of miraculous. It doesn't just heal wounds, it regenerates human skin. A medical breakthrough born not in Silicon Valley, but in a hospital lab in Australia. This is the story of how one woman's determination gave hope to burn victims around the world, with a life-saving innovation known as spray-on skin. It was the early 1990s in Perth, Western Australia, a time when medical technology was advancing, but severe burn treatment remained painfully slow and devastating. For many patients, large burns meant a lifetime of scars, endless surgeries, and unimaginable pain. Then came Dr. Fiona Wood, a plastic surgeon and researcher who refused to accept that this was the best medicine could offer. Fiona Wood had a dream to give burn victims back their skin, their confidence, and their lives. She believed that the body's own cells held the secret to faster healing. But how could she use those cells to repair massive injuries quickly? Working at the Royal Perth Hospital, Dr. Wood developed a revolutionary method. Instead of waiting weeks to grow skin in a lab for grafting, she created a way to harvest a small patch of healthy skin from the patient, multiply its cells rapidly, and spray them directly onto the wound. The process was fast, turning what once took 21 days into just 5. Using a special spray gun, doctors could cover large areas of damaged skin in minutes, allowing cells to grow, merge, and heal the body naturally. This invention, the spray-on skin, became one of the most important medical breakthroughs in burn care history. But its real test came in 2002, when tragedy struck. After the Bali bombings, Dr. Wood and her team worked around the clock to treat victims with catastrophic burns. The results were astounding. Patients who would have faced years of painful recovery began to heal faster than ever imagined. Her innovation drew worldwide attention, saving countless lives and reducing both scarring and trauma for survivors. Dr. Fiona Wood's dedication didn't just change medical science, it changed humanity's relationship with pain, recovery, and resilience. Today, spray-on skin is used in hospitals across the world. It has helped soldiers, accident victims, and burn patients regain their sense of self. It's more than technology, it's compassion in motion, turning despair into hope with every spray. For her work, Dr. Wood was named Australian of the Year in 2005, and her invention remains one of the most profound symbols of Australian innovation and human empathy combined. Think about it. A simple idea, born from kindness and courage, became a miracle that gave skin and life back to those who had lost both. Spray-on skin is not just a medical device. It's a promise that even the deepest wounds can heal, and that innovation, when guided by heart, can truly change the world. The 10th and final invention is one that touches almost every family in the world. It doesn't build machines or power cities. It shows us something far more profound. The first glimpse of life itself. From the heartbeat of an unborn child to the diagnosis of hidden illnesses, this invention forever changed medicine and humanity. This is the story of how Australia helped the world see through sound with the ultrasound scanner. It was the 1950s, a time when medicine was evolving, but much of the human body remained a mystery. Doctors could listen to your heartbeat, feel your pulse, and take X-rays, but they couldn't see what was happening in real time inside the living body, and certainly not inside the womb. Then, in Australia, a small team of brilliant minds, led by Dr. David Robinson and Dr. George Kossoff at the Commonwealth Acoustic Laboratories, began working on something revolutionary. Their idea: use sound waves, not radiation, to look inside the human body safely. At first, people laughed at the concept. How could sound, invisible, intangible, produce images? But Robinson and Kossoff persisted, inspired by sonar technology used in submarines during World War II. If sonar could map the ocean floor using echoes, why couldn't it map the human body the same way? In 1961, their persistence paid off. They created one of the first practical medical ultrasound scanners, capable of producing live images of internal organs using reflected sound waves. For the first time, doctors could see inside the body, watching the heart pump, blood flow, and most beautifully of all, a baby moving in the womb. It was a moment that redefined medicine. No longer did expecting parents have to wait in fear or hope blindly. Now they could see the life growing inside. The ultrasound became not just a tool, but an emotional bridge between science and humanity. This Australian innovation transformed healthcare forever. It helped detect diseases earlier, guided surgeons with precision, and reduced the risks of countless medical procedures. And perhaps its most iconic legacy: it gave parents their very first photograph of their unborn child. From those grainy black and white images of the 1960s to today's crystal clear 3D and 4D scans, the principle remains the same: using echoes of sound to reveal the miracle of life. All of it began with a group of Australian innovators who believed that sound could illuminate what the eye could not see. Think about that for a moment. Every baby's first image, every doctor's precise diagnosis, every life saved by early detection, all of it connects back to a single idea, born in Australia. The ultrasound scanner didn't just revolutionize medicine, it connected us to the very beginning of existence itself. So, the next time you see that flickering black and white heartbeat on a screen, remember, that's not just sound. That's science, compassion, and innovation, echoing from Australia to every corner of the world. And there you have it, 10 incredible Australian inventions that changed the world. From Wi-Fi to the pacemaker, from refrigeration to Google Maps, these innovations remind us that great ideas can come from anywhere and change everything. If you enjoyed this journey through Australia's greatest creations, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because there's a world full of stories still waiting to be told.